Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, guys, this is not going to be one of those sessions where you fall asleep in 5 minutes. I think it'll take around 10 minutes. So, at least for the first 10 minutes, I'd like your attention. Now, let me give you a preamble. Before coming here, I interviewed 7 CEOs. I'm writing a book on digital disruption, right, for CEOs. And because CEOs don't have time, it'll be a very small book. I interviewed 7 CEOs. Each one had a company more than $100 million, right? These are all in Pakistan. So the news is sobering, right? And that will form the discussion of the basis of my questions and to the conclusion. I'll save the best part for the end, so you guys actually stay here and off your phones. So it's going to be a good discussion, and we will steer it in a forthright manner, and every now and then we will ping a few of you to get involved, right? And so before I start with my first question, I'd just like to have a quick show of hands that has anybody ever expected you, from any of you, to lead change in your team? Chahe do bandon ki team ho. Can I have a hands up? Okay, very good, very good. So you guys are going to enjoy this. So the preamble here is that the average tenure of companies in the S&P 500 in the US, it used to be 35 years. By 2026, which is 9 years away, it'll be 14 years, right? And the next 10 years, half the companies from the top 500 companies will exit from the S&P 500. Half of them, right? 2015 was the largest recorded mergers and acquisitions year in history. $5 trillion spent. You can say that that's a lot of business, economy is good. No, it's not. This is the strong eating the weak, right? That's all it is. Companies we used to know about, Kodak and White Times, all have exited from the top 500. The companies that have come in, let's not talk about, when we think of digital stuff, we say, oh, technology companies, Google, Apple. Let's talk about old school companies, in old school industries. So you have Regeneron, it's a pharmaceutical company, but it brings a think tank approach to making drugs, right? Then there is Under Armour. Under Armour makes clothes, but it uses digital to make clothes. It has a platform which engages its consumers, right? So these are old school industries like apparel and pharmaceuticals, but they're digital companies, and they're in the top 500s. And the ones who couldn't make it are out. So we did a quick survey in Pakistan, right, of over 2/3 of the CEOs we surveyed said, yes, if we don't transform, we will die. These are smart people. But when we asked them, how many of you are confident that you can change, 10 to 15% said yes. So the biggest issue is change. So this session is now about how to lead that change. Should you be a conductor? Should you be a commander? Should it be forthright? Should it be more diffusive? So we're going to ping all these smart gentlemen and have a chat about that. Nadeem Bhai is unfortunately gone. Nadeem Bhai would have been nice to chat to about this because he has a lot of exposure. So let's talk with, is Aga Saab, did Aga Saab make it? No, okay. So Sajid Saab, you have exposure to students, right? That is very interesting because, like Umar Saab so rightfully said, 60% of our population is young. In fact, we did an analysis for the United Nations. 4 million people will hit the age of inter every year in Pakistan, between now and 2025. 40 lakh kids at their most impressionable age, where they decide which brand to adopt for the first time and stick with. 4 million every year, right? So, Sajid sir, they will also be customers, they will also be employees. And if we can't figure them out, it's going to be tough. So what do you think is the best way to enlist them in digital disruption, right? Because they will be the ones who will be carrying it out. How are they different?
Thank you, Avi. I think when we are talking about change, we can't segregate life and the rest of the life, like work and studies or career decisions. It's a part of life now. So there was a time when we were talking about the work-life balances and the different balances, but now it's an integration of those. So that integration particularly is important to understand. So when we talk about the change, we have to recognize the change which is happening all over the places. digital is a one thing which is very visible, like how we act or react to different areas, how we get engaged in the different models. But I think there's another disruption which is underlying going on is the behaviors. So our behaviors are also disrupting. The behaviors which we used to demonstrate, let's say 5-10 years back, it's no more there. So now when you have to go through a change process, first is the recognition that what area you're going to focus on. As a CEO, when you talk about it specifically, you can't really focus on everything. You have to pick up something where you can make significant impact or most impact, and that which can trigger the further outcomes which you are looking for. Like we mentioned, there are 4 million people who will be coming to their more impressionable age of where they make their career decision, and those career decisions going forward going to determine how our GDP will look like, how our society will look like, how our economy will look like. Are we going to come up as an entrepreneur nation, or are we going to create the employee, or are we going towards the trading? Are we going to be manufacturer, or are we going towards more like the IT companies we are looking for? Are we going towards the Silicon Valley, or we are still living in the old school, like you mentioned, the apparel and the pharmaceutical? So these changes first require a recognition as a CEO, as a family, as a parent, as a teacher. So this is a collective measure. So I think this conversation is more about what we are going to recognize and where we are going to make a maximum impact. Digital is a one way to create that awareness that what's changing and how to cope with that. And change is a very painful process, particularly people like of our age, and when we talk to the younger nation or the people we talk about 60% of population of Pakistan, which is under 30, it's difficult to really relate the behavior which we used to see and demonstrate. They may not be demonstrating the same behavior. Is it right or wrong? So we most of the time get into those discussions rather than recognizing those behavior and helping them to go through that change, or helping ourselves to go through that change. So it's more difficult to really help ourselves to go through that change process. And then change process requires clarity, what to change, when to change, where we are leading. It's required the emotional journey, which is more important. That's required engagement with the right audience and the stakeholder. So this is a process when we look at the change in journal, and it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. From an opportunity perspective, from a Pakistan perspective, from society perspective, when we are talking about handling or dealing with such a young nation, and at the same time that those are also part of our own company and employment. So I think the bigger thing is that as CEOs, are we very clear what we want? And this clarity may not be there. So there will be more uncertainty and ambiguity. And as a CEO, the first thing which we have to recognize or understand, can we live with that ambiguity? Can we understand that pattern out of chaos? Can we really make new patterns? Can we really relate a right pattern in terms of that response which we have to create for a change? Change or disruption is a norm now. We can't say that it's a one-time event and it will not happen again, but it's a norm now. So we have to recognize disruption as a norm in a digital world, in business, and the behaviors. And behaviors are the first thing I would suggest which we have to work on and help people to really understand.
Okay, great, Sajid. I'm going to cut you off right here because you made an important point. I want to hit home on it. Like youngsters don't take orders. You have to understand this. Hierarchy does not work with them. And this is not me. One of the oldest, most industrial companies in the world is GE. And with Jeffrey Immelt, with a client of mine, and he said to him that hierarchy doesn't work at GE anymore. We don't give orders anymore. It doesn't work. So clarity with a sense of purpose is very important, which is why millennials and post-millennials respond to purpose-driven organizations. That's a conversation everybody has to have. How do I create that purpose in my department, in my company? Now I'd like to talk to Faisal Saab. Sir, you appreciate the role of data more than most, and access to data is critical in enabling digital change. And one of the things we have found while digitizing an organization is that people hoard data. ये actually सबसे बड़ा मसला होता है. चाहे आप managerial decision में, चाहे आप master data management कर रहे हो, SAP और Oracle की जो basic होती है ना कि let's have one view of the customer, या कुछ भी कर रहे हो, people people think that data and influence are related. If they give over data, influence come ho jayega. And that's actually one of the biggest things that you have in causing change across large organizations is people hold data. So how does one get around that?
But our experience in this regard is basically आप जब तक उनको engage नहीं करेंगे, engage करके value driven नहीं करेंगे कि what exactly we are trying to achieve, and nothing will be lost in this whole process. जो fear of loss है या fear of their own value है, जब तक उसको diminish नहीं किया जाएगा, what we have seen is cannot be eliminated. For instance, आज मैं बड़ी simple सी example देता हूँ कि I work for a utility company, and for a utility you would all agree that there are two most important elements. Number one is the customer satisfaction, and the number two is the reduction of the losses. For the customer satisfaction, what we made a very basic change that from a call center, whenever a call center receives a complaint, we respond back to the consumer, 500 calls a day, that कल आपको ये service attend की गई थी, whether you were satisfied with the service or not. That change allowed the users to update the system instantly. उनको system update करना था, उनको अपने behavior के हवाले से कि क्या जो वो change करके आए हैं, customer की call attend करके आए हैं, whether they were satisfied or not, that helped us in making sure that we are achieving the efficiencies.
So you put a feedback loop.
Yes, we put a feedback. Similarly, a number of other, I'll give you more examples. Very simple example. We were having a problem with the consumption record of the consumers. So we had to bring in a technology wherein a meter now holds a GPRS modem and now electronically communicates all the consumption record of our consumer. Traditionally, one of our foremen used to go there and record consumption का record, download करना है या किसी जो भी वो now the data is coming in directly. So the change उससे कोई action होना है या नहीं होना ये secondary stage. But first information must be available. उसकी availability was allowed through integrated this disruption.
Okay, this is an interesting point. So tell me this. Creating feedback loops is important. In fact, one recent study found out that if you actually start a feedback loop with positive, यानी कि आप customer को कहें, have you ever had a positive experience, right? Something that throws him off the loop because they expect negative questions. Research shows that customer is happier with you for the rest of his life, and his business with you increases by 15 to 20%. I mean, this is the easiest social hack you can do, right? So it goes back to what you said about behavior. But it seems to me that you also talk about clarity. Let's talk about middle management layer that doesn't give you data. I mean, you want to make a change, but they don't give you data. How do you get around that?
It's the principle way to engage.
Does it work?
Yes, we have seen it in our organization. It works. So engagement and collaborative effort is, we all talk about customer is king, but in change management, collaboration is the king. You have to collaborate with the resources, you have to collaborate and inform them, take them apart, उनको साथ लेके चले, किस तरह ये information जो है या ये change जो है will bring in efficiency in this organization. That is what we consider a key element in this.
That's a great insight. Acha, I'd like to talk to Anjum Saab now. Anjum Saab, you have exposure to both technology as a CEO and manufacturing as a CEO. Now, increasingly, disruptive technologies are enabling use cases in your sectors. For example, wearables are being used for health, safety, and environment use cases to make sure that these accidents don't happen. So, what are your experiences with introducing technology in your companies? And very basic question: what works? What doesn't work?
Thank you, Habib. And Assalamu alaikum participant. First of all, let me clarify and tell you my role. I'm not a CEO anymore. I work with the companies where there are independent CEOs and there are independent profit centers. And bringing those CEOs onto a common platform is even a bigger challenge.
Yes.
And at times there they're brought into a common platform to bring the change. But many a times I work with different CEOs and with different organizations in terms of the transformation in their organizations and use that as a model for the other organizations to bring in those changes. I think first of all I thought I'd clarify that you've seen me previously in different roles where I've been heading the organizations. And I think what really works and what doesn't work, coming straight to your question, is when you're working with the CEOs, there is one thing that and you see, you've got to, in order to bring the change, you've got to work at different levels of the organization to bring the change. One is at the top level, then at the middle and the implementation level also, because the change comes in at the implementation level is the actual change when it comes, if the execution is right. So the first is the belief and the conviction that you've got to create at the topmost level. That's the first thing that has to be there. And once that belief and conviction is there, and people accept that this is something which is going to bring in that benefit that one is actually portraying, then people go for the change. But then when it comes to the time of execution, that's where I see that there are issues and problems many times. Even at the level of implementation, but even at the level of the top level, there are many times those conflicts which arise in the minds of the CEOs and the people actually managing businesses, because there are other considerations which come in despite the fact that they may have conviction on a certain thing that this is right. Then there are considerations at times which are temporary considerations in terms which are volume considerations. There are revenue considerations. There are target considerations. Many a time when you're moving with the transformation, you've got to take a plunge temporarily, but long term what it does is it brings in sustained benefits over a long period. So if you have the ability to have patience and live with the conviction that you have and that it is going to bring benefit, that's where you get sustained benefit out of it. Otherwise what happens is, I have seen people with an excellent vision losing sight of the vision when it comes to execution and losing the benefits of that very, very important change process that we started within their own organizations.
Okay, fantastic response. Actually, one of the major issues whenever we talk about digital disruption with CEOs is, and they tell me, is that, especially the publicly listed company ones, is that I have to run a company on a quarterly basis, but I'm also being asked to, look 3 to 5 years ahead, and that is so hard. That is so hard. And I think that's what you touched at, that you have to engage. That's what you also touched at, engaging. And that's what you also touched at, that the culture of engagement and collaboration is important. So I think digital and the ability to engage stakeholders and compel them as opposed to order them, this might be something to keep an eye out on. Asif sir, as a solution provider of technology, so I have a question for you. As someone who has come from a startup, do companies need a bit of startup culture to manage change in the digital age? They say people don't change. So do companies change? Is it even possible? What do you think?
Thank you very much. First of all, Assalamu alaikum, dear audience. For the startup, as you said, for startup, the possibility of adapting to change is, the value is quite high, because as you know, at that time you can adjust to the changes. And in the term of digital disruption, in this era of technology, what is this digital disruption, as you said about the collaboration and all that, how it goes through, and how every company comes at peak and any company goes die out, even a bigger names die out, and what are the core factors of that? Number one is, in that, first of all, you should know what you are and what you need. And obviously, in that, you don't go with the change mostly. And first of all, if the signal starts coming around, at least you start hearing that, but you would not be accepting it at that time. This change is happening around that. But the people which are fairly mature in that process in that company, they don't go with that change. And then after that, then when you go with the further in that, you try to go with the change. you go with different joint ventures, different collaborations, engagements. But at that time, what happens is sometimes you get successful, but mostly because you are trying for it, but you don't know, you're forced to do that. But in that time, sometimes you get failed in that as well. But after that, the another stage comes is at that time when the change is inevitable. You can't hold the change. In that time, you go with the ventures, and that time everyone is accepting that change, and the technology is there as well. So at that time, you go with any venture or any collaboration, the chances of being success is high because people are accepting that change. Like in nowadays 3G is there, 4G is there. If you go with that change, the flow of like in our sector, there is the mobile apps, smart solutions. You see everywhere it's going successful. Before that time, you go 5 years back or 10 years back, you ask anyone, you are offering smart solutions. No one will be going to accept that. So change is inevitable at that time. And after that is that then you adopt those changes and go with the norm. This is what the process should be and in that the innovation is the key factor. The innovation dilemma, that is like what everyone is fear about. I hardly see like any company which is going slow. Mostly the company which is going slow dies, but any company which is going fast don't die. They eventually get successful. The change should be there, as everyone said, with the collaboration. In every team, every sector, there should be a strong collaboration. Innovation should be there. Like we are doing into the banking sector, we are providing a unique solution which haven't been produced or introduced in Pakistan before that. When we came here, no one was even willing to listen about that. But when we showed them results with the other part of the world where it's been launched, so it's like 10 hours of work compared with 10 days of work has been done and produced the same output in 4 hours. Against 10 ATM machines, you can get the same result with one simple software. So this is what the output and change is. So if you don't go with those, if any bank which adopts that, obviously like their economy will boost, they will get most benefit out of that. Sorry.
No, this is a good one.
So that's what, this is what I'm saying. Like the change, the point, a stage comes when change is inevitable. You can't like sit back. At that time, either you die out, or if you are forced to do that. So change should be there, and this is what I see like as a startup as well in Pakistan industry. Change is happening, but it's going on fairly slow pace. It should be moving with a fast pace, especially with the companies. So this is what my submission is on this. On
Okay.
your point.
This is a very important point. So you said two things which are important, right? So one is that if you can't enable change on your own, it's okay to get help, but it's okay to introduce third parties, and this is true. I was with the CEO of a power plant, very large, 660 megawatt, right? So decent size, and he had the same dilemma that the change was too slow, so he enlisted the help of GE. And energy generation it's fairly simple business actually in terms of execution. There's just a large turbine which produces electricity, and even within that, he digitized every single part of the operation, put sensors everywhere, and used that data for effective decision making. And he was able to get savings within millions of dollars in Pakistan, in rural Sindh. Astonishing. And he couldn't have done that if he hadn't gone for that partnership. Another point you made was that those who do change fast do have an advantage, and this is actually proven. So I have a friend in Cognizant, and he sent me some very interesting research. Cognizant is on the cutting edge of disruptive technologies research, and the research shows that there is this something they call the NX effect or 2X effect. I forget. People who adopt change, the gap between them and the people who lag gets proportionately higher. I mean, it's astonishing. So you're not saying, if I change quicker, I'm going to be 15-20% better than the next guy. No, you're going to be 200 or 2,000% better than him in 3 to 5 years. And that's the research, that's what their research proved, right? It's a global research. And it's astonishing because they are focused on emerging markets or frontier markets, which is where we are. So adopting change, while tough, has its benefits, right? So, Sajid, I'm gonna I'm going to come back to you, right? So you work for ACCA, old, storied company, tradition, headquarters in London, right? So that just screams traditional, right? So how do you think that people taking education and certifications will be different in 10 years? You know, is anybody at head office panicking? I'm just interested to see how services companies react, you know. Is there governance around how you explore these issues? You know, do you guys sit down and say, okay, you know, we should think about this?
No, thank you, Abhi. I think that's a valid observation. The ACC is a 112-year-old organization, originated in UK and then expanded globally. So I think its presence as a one single professional accounting body globally reflect their thinking ahead and forward-thinking approach. And you are very much right. We have got a proper governance process. That's what's coming in. Education going forward, that's what our finding is. The education going forward is more content related. So it's going towards that where you deliver content, and assessment and evaluation itself is a part of a process where you evaluate the quality of content in terms of the learning outcome which it has generated. And once somebody can demonstrate that they have gone through that content, they have gone through that training, which again demonstrated in terms of a different questionnaire or evaluation, whether they have really built that capacity which that training is supposed to be. And then after that evaluation, they are awarded with a certain certification or degree in that matter. So if you relate the education industry right now, there is a recognition that it's going in a similar direction where the media organizations may be leading. Because end of the day, it's a content which impact the learning or influence somebody to create a certain outcome and go through that journey. So there is a governance process, and you cannot really run that type of organization which is global without having those governance process to recognize, number one, what's going to change, then having a very detailed execution plan, like Anil mentioned. You have to have that execution plan, otherwise it could be a very good discussion in a boardroom that if there's a change and we should respond to that, and there are 10 different ways to do that. You have to make your choices, otherwise the time will not let you make those choices. You have to make those choices, create an execution plan, understand the purpose. Even a smaller project you rightly picked up, the people which we are working, you can't drive them with the order. You have to really tell that it's a small thing, but it has a purpose towards that big picture. And once they relate it, that's where they come along on that journey. And then they drive those changes which we have to run.
Okay, so hypothetically, what you're saying is that ACCA in 10 years could just be a platform.
No, it would be more evaluation and assessment. Even today, the basic role of ACCA is to conduct exams. Right, to make sure there is a framework which is coming from IFAC. So every accounting body has to focus, work on the same education standards, same outcomes which IFAC as a mother body has decided. And then they have to deliver and evaluate those exams, and then they have to run through that training. There is 36 months training, and training itself has got its outcome. There are 14 outcomes which student has to generate during that training, and those need to be evaluated. So ACCA role as an accounting body for the student side is to make sure that evaluation is there. And as a member body, it has to create an ecosystem where the members can generate public value, so they can contribute back to society in terms of the transparencies, in terms of the financial reporting side of it, in terms of bringing the ethics as a forefront item for any organization, whether it's a public sector or private sector. So the role of accounting body is very different in terms of once it's come to students or it's come to the journey of study, it's exams. Once it's come to member, it's all around how they can add value back to even the corporate sector or society or economy in general, and how the organization will support. But all the support on learning, when we talk about learning particularly, whether we are talking universities, we're talking about the accounting bodies, or we are talking about a very small company who can create the right content which can influence that and evaluate and certify that with the right recognition. So that's how the education industry looks like. Harvard will have more students outside Harvard premises compared to the number of students who now go and join and sit within the university premises. So that's how it's evolving.
It's a good point. Already in the US, 25% of courses of students who are actually attending universities, the ones who have gotten in and are attending physically the universities, they take 25% of their courses in their dorm or offline. I mean, outside the classroom. That's the stat, 25% plus. So, and this is not just like education certification. This is learning and certifications as a professional anywhere. It's going offline. Father sir, so in Internet of Things. Internet of Things is set to revolutionize the utility space. People talk about digital disruption, they still don't know what digital is. Like if I ask 20 people here, I'll get 20 definitions. So, industrial Internet of Things is actually arrived, right? And it's like a multi-billion-dollar business for a lot of companies. So, and it's already showing value, as I demonstrated in Pakistan, right? As an organization that's focused on gas distribution and customer management, how does it become an organization that uses data to effectively manage itself? I mean, that needs data cognizance at all levels, right? From the guys who go repair faults, all the way to the guys who are like, couriering information.
A couple of examples. For instance, one of the major dilemmas in our industry, particularly losses, is theft. Theft is one component, and there are others as well. Particularly theft. There are people who actually tamper with the measurement devices. So what happens is that when the measurement devices is tampered, then there's a process of replacing that, a scheduled replacement, and then quantifying if it is tampered or not. What we have done is that we have automated the whole process from the installation of the measurement device to actual scheduled replacement. It actually automatically generates an alert that these devices are X amount of days old, you must replace them. Then it comes to the workshop where they are flow-proofed and identified as tampered or not. It automatically, the guy over there has to enter the data, what the findings are. There's a CCTV camera over there, which actually records the whole process of actually opening the device, and it is translated back to.
Is this easy to implement in your company?
As I said, it has taken us a lot of effort and commitment and conviction to actually automate this whole.
Give me a time.
It's around more than 1 year. And then actually not only its bugs does not stop here. Then actually billing that customer, having a visibility that the meter was installed on X consumer, and actually the charges if everything is billed to that consumer or not. This whole automation process, end to end, it actually has allowed the organization to see that what the power of the internet, power of the digitization has helped the organization reduce that process, identify the loss, where it is happening and how it is happening.
Any visibility on the savings or how much it's helped the company?
I can give you a rough example. That 13%, we were around 3 years ago, our losses were 13%. This year we will inshallah close at less than 8%.
Extraordinary. I guess I'd conclude this session now. A few things clearly stand out. Change is inevitable. Whoever jumps on it fast, it's becoming a cliche now. I need to come up with another phrase for this. But whoever jumps on it first can reap the benefits like Professor Saab has just explained. And that collaborative is the way to go for creating change inside the organization. So have a clear vision, communicate it, fail fast where need to, but keep moving. All right, thank you guys, everybody, and thank you guys for listening.